economy that's making us poorer and pushing us into managed decline. And this isn't just about the economy either.
Well, first of all, I mean, how naive, how stupid do these politicians think we are?
What happens when a prime minister's advice to the monarch is ruled unlawful by the highest court in the land? We're about to find out as Keir Starmer faces the most serious constitutional crisis in modern British history. The Chief Justice's bombshell verdict has exposed not just procedural errors, but potential corruption at the highest levels of government. While ordinary Brits struggle with soaring energy bills and a cost of living nightmare, £22 billion has mysteriously disappeared from public coffers. King Charles is reportedly incandescent with rage, feeling his position has been compromised by a prime minister who promised integrity but delivered chaos.
It would pretty much be bouncing around that 2.5. No, the Bank of England today says prepare yourself for inflation to hit 3.75%.
The Chief Justice's bombshell verdict isn't just another political hiccup. It represents the culmination of what many are calling the most catastrophic financial scandal to rock British politics in decades. The ruling has sent shockwaves through Westminster, with implications that stretch from Downing Street all the way to Buckingham Palace. Behind this constitutional crisis lies a staggering economic reality that ordinary Britons are experiencing firsthand. While families across the UK struggle to heat their homes and put food on the table, a financial black hole of truly historic proportions has emerged. The vanishing of £22 billion in taxpayer money, funds originally earmarked for vital infrastructure and public services, represents more than just accounting errors. This is money that simply disappeared without a trace, leaving devastating holes in the nation's financial fabric.
Well, first of all, I mean, how naive, how stupid do these politicians think we are?
What makes this situation particularly alarming is the broader economic context. The UK's growth projections have been slashed dramatically to just 1%, half of what was previously anticipated. This isn't merely a number on a spreadsheet, it represents thousands of lost opportunities, stalled careers, and families unable to improve their circumstances.
Economy that's making us poorer and pushing us into managed decline. And this isn't just about the economy either.
As inflation continues its upward march, the cost of living crisis intensifies for millions of citizens who find themselves increasingly squeezed between rising prices and stagnant wages.
There's a widespread feeling among the British people that they are now trapped in a flimsy, disintegrating boat on stormy seas with no captain.
For economic growth in 2025 from 1.5% only 3 months ago to a mere 0.75% now.
Perhaps most telling is the closure of over 230,000 businesses since the last budget. Each shuttered shop window and empty office space tells the story of entrepreneurial dreams crushed under the weight of economic mismanagement. These aren't just statistics. They represent livelihoods destroyed and communities fundamentally altered. While government officials point to global instability as the culprit, the scale of the collapse suggests deeper, more systemic problems.
Bad news for a government which has made growth its primary mission. There's more bad news. The bank expects inflation, currently 2.5%.
Against this backdrop, Labour Chancellor Rachel Reeves's emergency budget takes on a more sinister character. What initially appeared as a reactive measure to address economic challenges now looks increasingly like damage control, a desperate attempt to obscure financial mismanagement at the highest levels of government. The budget, widely criticized for proposed cuts to public services, reveals a leadership on the brink of breaking her own fiscal rules.
I guess, Fraser, the first thing to say is no surprise at the rate cut, since the economy's flatlining.
That's exactly right.
This isn't merely political incompetence. It suggests a government in crisis mode, scrambling to conceal its failures from public scrutiny. The ballooning bureaucracy presents another troubling dimension to this economic calamity. Since 2016, the government has added an astonishing 170,000 civil servants to its payroll. This expanding administrative apparatus consumes vast resources while delivering diminishing returns.
170,000 more civil servants on the payroll than we did in 2016, all of whom, by the way, are being paid for by you, the British taxpayer.
Taxpayers are effectively funding an ever-growing machine that produces increasingly poor outcomes. Meanwhile, welfare spending is projected to reach a mind-boggling £360 billion annually by 2028 to 2029. This unprecedented figure might be justifiable if it corresponded with improvements in public services and quality of life. Instead, we're witnessing the paradoxical combination of record spending alongside deteriorating services.
Struck by the fact that you said Labour is delivering higher living standards for the people of this country. In what way is that happening?
Narrative to this, that generally speaking, people are expecting less growth, higher rates, higher mortgages, higher borrowing rates, none of which is good for growth.
Hospitals with longer wait times, schools with fewer resources, and infrastructure projects perpetually delayed, all while more money than ever flows through government coffers. The Chief Justice's ruling cuts through these financial complexities with devastating clarity. By explicitly labeling certain financial decisions as unlawful, the ruling directly contradicts the advice Starmer provided to King Charles. The verdict wasn't a close call or a matter of nuanced legal interpretation. It was unanimous among all 11 justices, underscoring the severity of the government's transgressions.
This is the unanimous judgment of all 11 justices.
The legal implications here extend far beyond procedural missteps or technical violations. They point toward potential corruption at the highest levels of British governance. Criminal investigations may well follow, as prosecutors examine whether officials knowingly misled both the public and the monarchy about the state of national finances. What began as economic mismanagement could potentially end with criminal charges. This scandal explains reports of King Charles's fury. The monarch finds himself in an unprecedented position, his constitutional role compromised by a prime minister who appears to have deliberately misled him on matters of state finance. The relationship between the Crown and Downing Street, always delicate, has been fundamentally damaged. Charles, bound by constitutional convention to follow his government's advice, has been placed in an impossible position, potentially signing off on financial decisions now deemed unlawful by the highest court in the land. The convergence of economic collapse and constitutional crisis creates a perfect storm that threatens the very foundations of British governance. Public trust, already tenuous, risks complete erosion as citizens question whether their leaders are capable of, or even interested in, honest financial management. International confidence in British institutions hangs in the balance, with potential impacts on investment, trade relationships, and diplomatic standing. The true implications of the Chief Justice's verdict are now becoming painfully clear. Starmer's premiership isn't merely facing political headwinds, it's on life support. Britain's public services are in absolute free fall. Trains barely running, crime unchecked, hospitals stretched beyond breaking point. This collapse isn't happening in isolation, it's the direct consequence of catastrophic financial mismanagement. What makes this constitutional crisis particularly damaging is its timing amid economic freefall.
Indication that the approach that we're taking to the economy, which is to stabilize it, to be strategic and long-term in our decision-making.
With growth limping at 1% and inflation once again climbing, the monarchy now faces an impossible choice between constitutional precedent and national stability. For Starmer, the combination of legal challenges, crumbling infrastructure, and royal displeasure means his government's days are surely numbered.